So I'm going to talk about how art shapes our understanding of loss and remembrance. And I also have a perspective more like on the collective grief and sufferings, and not that much on the individual grave markers. But we see one here. More like on memorials and that stuff. So I can just begin here with to have an intro. Customs and rituals surrounding death are universal. They may look different, but the need to cope with death has been a constant throughout human history. It is one of the clearest signs of our shared humanity, and most of our archaeological finds come from excavations of tombs and graves, which we can see in our museums and so on. But I find also, this is a nice line, I think, we can keep in mind. To grieve is to love absence. And love is what we see here. It's an image from the Netherlands, a small city. I don't remember where it was, but it shows the great separation or segregation it was in the Netherlands ages ago. And they have this kind of polarization. So people live like Catholics or Protestants or other political ideology. So it was very separated. And even in death, as you see. So I don't know which side it was, a Protestant or Catholic, but they tried to reach and grab each other as a handshake there. Okay. Yeah, here's the content. I'm going to jump here and there on this, but I think I have something on each lines here. But I'm going to have most intention of this one, and also about memento mori. And also this is more like a question, like art cannot replace the loss, but it can make the loss bearable. So we can have also focus on that. But I want to start with the children's perspective. And there's a Swedish author and artist, Barbro Lindgren. She wrote a poem about death. Everyone will die, all the animals too, all the trees and the little flowers in the grass, but not all at the same time. Just one here and one there, so we hardly notice. I think that's a sweet poem. And what you see here is from a film that I have seen. I don't know if anyone else has seen that. It's a very Swedish one, of course, but it's called Guest in Reality. Yes, hos verkligheten. Has anyone seen that? Okay. It's the actor here is Jan Elfström, and he was more known for being Åsa-Nisse for some of you. That's for me, you know this guy, but he was very serious actor in this film. It was about they are on a tour to the grandparents, and the film is about this small guy here and how he experienced very strange things. And one of the scenes was he woke up in the middle of the night and didn't feel comfort, so he went to his grandparents' bed or bedroom, and then he saw them lying there, almost like they were dead. So that was a very strong filmatic scene. And we keep having this child perspective. Perhaps you also have experienced this. I did that when I was a child, when we first find a dead bird, and we're making some rituals around that. And here it was, it's sort of, daycare school for small children. And they found this bird and they want to make something for this bird, and they dig a pit and lay him there. And they was also talking about to make a song. So what shall we sing? Should we say "We Congratulate"? Was a suggestion, but it didn't really fit. So it became "Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star." So this is an example of children's natural ritual thinking. They create their own rites of passage without adult guidance as a way. Oh, I'm jumping here and there. Okay, but I'm trying to see my text better. Yeah. Yeah, so the song, the sorrow, and the act of burial, they express something profound human. We saw you, we remember you, you mattered. But that it's not just humans that have deep feelings and empathy for their living species. Elephants revisit the graves of both known and unknown individuals for years, suggesting a deep perception of death. High primates like monkeys may carry dead infants, sit quietly beside bodies, attempt to review them, revive them, and showing signs of grief such as depression or loss of appetite. And these birds there are having also a gathering around the dead companion, calling out loudly. And it could go on for hours. But while animal behavior shouldn't be equated to directly with human grief, strong reactions to death are common in socially bonded species. And what we see here is also old art. We have Hans Holbein, of these wealthy and well-educated guys. They were just around the 20 years here, 25 or something. And they're showing off their educational or high level of education and scientific stuff that they can use. But also they have this strange thing down here. And that was Holbein's trick too, because one of these, there were two ambassadors, one from France and one from England. And the one from England, he was very interested in this memento mori. And you can see the skull there. Have you seen this image? It's in London. But in a certain angle, you see this skull very precise as it is. And here we have Arnold Böckling, that's the deceased souls travel to the island of death. The boatman Charon is taking them there. And here we have also very strong symbols of memento mori. We have skull, the hourglass, and also the tulip. the flowers also fading away. But there's a certain story in the Netherlands about this tulip thing, because it was one of the first, it called tulip mania and the dot-com bubble. So they speculated in tulips, and they were so expensive. One tulip could cost more than a house in Amsterdam. But then it broke down 1637. Demand collapsed and the market crashed overnight and people got broke. So that was the first speculation, the economic and financial crisis. Human beings are aware of their own mortality. This creates a need to understand and cope with the inevitable loss. Psychologist Irvin D. Yalom writes that death functions as a background screen against which life appears more clearly. It awakens us. And what you see here is an image of a photo of Robert Mapplethorpe just a year before he passed away of AIDS, and he's having this memento mori skull symbol. And here we have a poem as well from our Swedish poet Thomas Tranströmer called Black Postcards. And I was having this as a one-day assignment here at school, and one of the students came up with this letter here. But also in all this, we can see beauty. And there's a Japanese concept, mono no aware, that captures the bittersweet beauty of things that fade. The cherry blossom's brief bloom reminds us to cherish what is temporary. And ephemeral beauty is a concept that resonates deeply within human consciousness, symbolizing the delicate balance between creation and decay, life and death, and the permanent and the transient. Do you recognize, have you seen this before? Iceman. It's a Brazilian, and in 2009, Brazilian artist Nele Acevedo carved 1,000 melting men out of ice and placed them on a stairway in a square of Berlin in order to bring awareness of global warming. Nele Acevedo's melting man visually highlights the fragility of life and the urgency of climate change, but also very, very attached to the theme of mono no aware, I think. But here can we also see an image of how this is a very important, the killing of Anna Lindh in 2009, I think it was. And it's happened, we have these individual settings near the family, the closest ones, but we also have this brief that the collective could do as a right, which was happening there. And I remember this very strong because I was out on a study trip to Uppsala, and we went also to Stockholm that day. And then we just passed by the department store NK, and people gather around there and bringing flowers there. This is also what happens. We have this collective grief as well as rituals when such a thing happens. And also we can see here memorials take many forms, each carrying deep meaning for those who grieve. At St. Columba's Hospice in Edinburgh, ceramic forget-me-nots honor lost loved ones, while a copper leaf inscribed with a personal message is given as a keepsake. And in Shrewsbury, a memorial for unborn children created by Jenny Pickford. You might know her, perhaps.
You do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Offers a space for remembrance and healing. And Slovakian artist Martin Hundacek Memorial for Unborn Children is a powerful sculpture of mercy and forgiveness, especially resonate in the post-abortion grief. And it was set up in a very, in that kind of Catholic area in the US, which, the abortion question is quite an issue there. But you can also find this in Japan. This Misoku water child is a Japanese term for a child who died before or shortly after birth. To honor these children, rituals called Misuko Kyo, and they are held often led by Buddhist monks. And people do knitting their hats, and they have these red bibs, and you can find them. They are commonly found in temple gardens or along pathways. And parents leave toys and flowers and stones there as offerings, a ritual for what never came to be. We have this in Sweden as well, for these stillbirth. And it was 50 years ago, it was surrounded by shame. But now we can see quite how, and it was a hospital chaplain who highlights its growing importance as a physical space for grieving families. So there have been many burials of stillborn babies and fetuses have been buried there. And we have this kind of burials all over in Sweden. Now we come to these iconic memorials. We have Auschwitz stands as an eternal memorial, a time capsule preserved to ensure the world never forgets the horrors of Nazism. Auschwitz is remembered not only through history, but also through powerful art, like Paul Celan's Death Fugue, like stark images like Black Milk of Dawn and Death is a Master from Germany to express horror. And we also see the shoes at the Donau, which is a much later memorial. It came up there 2005, and it consists of a lot. I can't remember how many shoes it was, but they were casted in iron. But we come back to that here. Yeah, I could go back. I'm sorry, I forgot. Also, if you heard that, now 2025, this whole area was not allowed to make any film recordings in, but now you can have. It has been 3D scanned all these buildings outside, not interior, but outside. So this whole area is digitalized now. But here we can see some strange similarities between the shoes on the Donau bank and the shoes here is on a bridge in Malmö, sharing to cherish celebrities in Malmö entertainment, famous artists and that. And that brings up a debate in the newspapers. And there were Swedish artist and writer Ida Tunström criticized the placement of the artwork in Malmö, pointing out its resemblance to the Holocaust Memorial in Budapest, Empty Shoes by Water. In Malmö, the artwork is of a lighter nature. Each pair of shoes has been fitted with a nameplate and serves as an individual tribute to this artist. And this stands like a stark contrast to the installation by the Donau, where the empty shoes are meant to serve as a stark reminder of something that must never be repeated. The question is how this came to be. An artist works freely, but commissioners and founders do not. They must consider how a public artwork might function, how it might be interpreted, and how it fits into its surroundings. We're going to have more of this debate. This one is one of the first, the tomb of the unknown soldier, and when grief has no grave. So both England and France did this at the almost at the same time. It's a memory of World War I. And it aimed to give a voice to the nameless and offer families a place to mourn those whose remains were never found. The eternal flame above the tomb is reignited each evening, 6:30. This one is from Paris. And it reminds us that grief never fully ends, but it can be carried with a dignity over time. And this is a very famous and quite new Holocaust memorial. And yes, have you been there?
Yes.
I've seen that. Yeah, it's a big one. And it's 19,000 square meter big, is it? And it's across southwest and east, south, north, and east and west. And it's have a wave-like construction. It's lower and bigger. And one interesting thing is that underneath lies the place of information with names of over 3 million victims. And the memorial was built in 2003 and 2004. And it's a huge amount of concrete here. And this is from the Jewish Museum in Berlin. And in some of the passage there's a void with a memory void, it's called. And it's an art installation by Menashe Kadishman at the US Museum. And it consists over 10,000 iron faces with open mouth. And you can walk there and you can find it very echoing when you walking there on all these metal plates there. And there's also, I couldn't get it, like it was a film about this. It's also called Shaleket, but it means falling leaves. And on this video from YouTube, you can see how these faces are dropped from the top and making very loud sounds. And here's from the Vietnam Memorial, Vietnam veterans. And it's also quite big one, 75-meter long, and it's sank down on the spot. So you walk into the ground, and while you do that, you see all this in this very special stone panels, which is very polished. So it reflects the one who the spectators who is visiting there. So they see themselves as long as they read the names. And Maya Lin was only 20, the one who won the competition to make this memorial. She was only 21 years old and a student at Yale, and she won this competition 1981. And she proposed something radical different, a wound in the landscape, quiet, abstract, and deeply personal. The memorial wall is built from black polished granite from Bangalore, and it was she was chosen this stone for purpose because it absorbs light and enhancing the gravity and the silence of the space. At the same time, it is highly polished, so it acts like a mirror. And here we have also one iconic. Perhaps everyone remember what you were doing that day. I remember I was here at school and students came along and said, Janne, you must see something. And it was really strange to see that attack from all the planes there. And yeah, the towers collapsed within 2 hours of the collision, and 2,600 people died, including 2,192 civilians. And after the collapse of the World Trade Center, hospital workers and law enforcement officers began to referring the World Trade Center as a site as ground zero. But we can also see here there were done sculptures of these WTC fragments. It's also steel beams or girders from leftovers there. So this piece is called Since 9/11 by Mia Ando, installed permanently in Queen Elizabeth's Olympic Park in London. And there were other sculptures made as well from this material. I think one is in Canada. And it was erected vertically, honors 9/11 victims, including the 67 British victims at that place. This is also something that happens this year. Yeah, we can all read this. This is what happens when like these shootings in Örebro this winter. The campus Risbergska in Örebro, where 10 people died in a school shooting last week. And it was like in the news. February 2025. On the day of the the day after, I think, they proposed, they said we should have a silent minute. Perhaps you did that here at school as well. and also the flag was on a half pole. But this happening that when such a horror thing happened, here's a shooting in Gothenburg, and here was that mad thing, the truck that runs on Drottninggatan. So immediately after something terrible has happened, people bring flowers and having candlelights there. I remember this day because I was taking Tobias for a ride back to Skövde to get to Stockholm, but we couldn't get there because all trains were shut down. We had a nice evening. But yeah, it's terrible. So this is more about collective grief. And you can see also this is when Diana died. This is outside Kensington Palace. And this 1997, or I have to take this again, 1997 prompted a wave of public grief and mourning, an aerial view of flowers and other mementos. But after that, it opened in 2004. This is a Princess of Wales memorial fountain. It was one of the most high-profile publicly funded projects in the UK. And since that has attracted millions of visitors and won a series of international awards and become one of London's most popular attractions. And the fountain is designed as an open structure where people can come close to the water. You can even walk through it. This reflects Diana's warmth and approachability as a person. The goal was to create a place of calm, community, and remembrance. Yes. And this is the Estonia disaster when a ferry get drowned in the sea there. And this monument is located next to the Galler Shipyard Cemetery in Djurgården. And it's formed like this front of the ship. And it's done by the Polish sculptor Miroslav Balka. And it was the monument is made of light granite and was sculpted by this guy. And the basic form is a triangle with entrance from a short side and a staircase that leads to this gallerbar. And in the middle, you can see the tree is around the tree. There's a ring carries the shipwreck site's coordinates. And the monument was inaugurated at the anniversary of this disaster in September 28, 1997. And this is another shocking moment for Swedes. Friday, February 28, 1986 became a day that shocked both Sweden and a large parts of the world. At 23:21, the Prime Minister Olof Palme was shot to death on an open street in Stockholm, and after having been at the cinema with his son and wife. And we have seen that memorials are not put up at the site where the accident has happened, But in this case, it's the same spot at Sveavägen in Stockholm. So the plaque, this bronze plaque, is on that spot. It's not usual that you have a memorial on the same spot where the event happened. And also we have this tsunami disaster 2004. And 10 years after the tsunami disaster in Southeast Asia, the government decided to establish a memorial service to honor the memory of those who lost their lives and create a common place for survivors. And the words from it was a competition, and a Danish artist and designer, Lea Porshager, and it was a sort of co-worker she worked with too. So it was a team that the work. Okay, the gravitational ripples aims to allow visitors to create their own varied experience by walking through the artwork, not unlike a classic labyrinth. I'm sure gravitational ripples will grow into its own being. Working with time is to feel something grow, to allow nature's space to express itself. This is an ongoing process as new layers and seeds will be added each year. But it was quite a debate in Sweden how politicians react and how they try to help survivors in Thailand after this. And there was really strong reactions, and politicians have to quit, and they get so criticized. But here's this question: what could which we can get reminded of? What do we lose when grief becomes politicized? In our pursuit of accountability, the ontological depth is often lost. That human life is finite, and this fact cannot be remedied. So, I mean, we can't force nature. I mean, it happens. And this was also terrible. The terror attacks at Utöya and in Oslo, 2011. And after that terrible attack, it was a competition to make a memorial. And the Swedish artist Jonas Dahlberg was chosen to this, to create the memorial. But it didn't work out that fine because people didn't like this. They thought it was too violent and aggressive. And some call it the rape of nature. So, some families didn't want to see the victims' names, including all. They already had their own memorials on it and local monuments. So they would like to see something else. And this proposal was taken back, and it was not realization. But at the same time, the artwork's strength lies precisely in this direct and uncompromising symbolism, memory wound, there to reflect the true nature of the event, a brutal, irreversible incision that tore away lives and left a void. Instead of concealing and concealing the pain or attempting to heal the wound. The work made it visible and permanent. It acknowledged that the trauma created by Breivik as an act is something Norway must live with, not forget. But instead, it became this one, and it's on the opposite side of Utøya. It's 27 individual shaped bronze columns, one for each person who lost their lives, are placed on the first step down towards the water. Each column bears a unique relief with the name of the deceased. And in Oslo, this national memorial upholding, in parallel, a national memorial is planned to build and to be ready next year. The memorial is titled Upholding and was selected in April 2025. And it's by Mattias Fallbacken. And he chose to have a mosaic image here. Depict is a wading bird from Utøya and its reflections in water, symbolizing nature, reflection, fragility, and resilience. And the name of the 77 victims will be engraved in the base. But it was also a spontaneous and march of and gathering of people on the day after this attack, and sort of protesting and also honoring the victims that happened in Oslo. And the same day Breivik blew up the bomb in Oslo, Norway's blacksmiths met at the conference. It became a minor meeting when news from the massacre of Utøya also began to flow. The blacksmiths did as they used to do at the meetings. They formed a piece of iron together. This time it was a big rose. That's when Tobbe Malm and Tone Mørk Konsrud, a Swedish and a Norwegian blacksmith working together, got the idea of a monument that would consist of roses from blacksmiths all over the world. Perhaps you have also been making these roses. Great. And the Iron Roses for Norway Memorial consists of a total of thousands of roses. And the monument was inaugurated in September 28, 2019, near Oslo Cathedral. Oh, there are lots of tragic things I just showed you. Yeah, but that's what's happening. This was also a very tragic event. It should be a very nice party discotheque at Backa in Gothenburg. And this happened in 1998. And there were lots of young kids there. And it also happened that some guys were denied to get in there for some reason. And one of the guys, he gets so mad, so he wants to take some revenge on the one that he didn't was allowed to enter this disco. So they did a fire, and it went out so bad that lots of around 398 young people aged 12 to 25 were inside the building. And it was not in, it was approved for 150 people. So it was so many in there. And there are lots of kids that die there. And I was talking to one of my friends, and he said that his sister was working as a nurse at the hospital in Gothenburg, and it became a sort of chaos because when this kid was not Swedish, so they have another outfit when they went out from their home, but they changed clothes to more like disco outfits. So the parents couldn't really recognize them. It was very hard for them to identify all the victims there. So it was a chaos. So they have to have guards there during that night. But on the 10th anniversary of it was a memorial raised there by a Swedish sculptor, Claes Hake, with all the names there as well. But we also have, I mean, it was an individual crisis, but we also have this collective crisis, or we can have sympathy and we can go there and learn and honor the victims as well. So there's always a collective and an individual grief in this book. And the same here is also how gatherness could strengthen us. This is about how participatory art can help us in this. In this case, it was the names is an AIDS memorial, and it's one of the biggest artwork we have in the world, or the folk art work. The name's AIDS Memorial Kilt, and it was the first ones in 1987. It was around 1,920 panels. But since then, the project has continued to grow. New panels are still being made. And I think it was 54 tons all these kilts were weighing. And the kilt was conceived in November of '85 by the longtime human rights activist, author and lecturer Cleve Jones. Jones had helped organize the annual Candle March honoring this man. He asked each of his fellow marchers to write on placards the names of friends and loved ones who have died in AIDS. At the end of the march, Jones and others stood on ladders taping these placards to the walls of the San Francisco Federal Building. And that's where he saw the wall names look like a patchwork kilt. So that's the idea, and then it has continued since that. And the name's AIDS Memorial is kept in the National AIDS Memorial in San Francisco. And this is also something that happened that you have to give the disease a face. And this is Hank Wilson. He didn't know he was HIV positive when he had to organize San Francisco's first candlelight AIDS in '83. But other gay men were dying, and he was frightened, and he knew the public need to see the face of the disease. And this was also happening in Sweden. We have this guy, Trädgård, I think it was, to show and give the AIDS phase. In Sweden, it's also organized in several cities, often by organizations such as Noaks Ark and RFSL in connection with the International AIDS Memorial Day. Oh, I went too fast. Yeah, I went too fast. And this is World War I memorial. And it consists of copies of ceramics. And it's done by Paul Cummings and Tom Pipers. Installed, and the installation is called Blood, Sweat, Lands and Seas of Red at the Tower in London. And it's installed during the summer of 2014 and the war anniversary from 1914. And this happened 2014. The poppy became known as a flower of remembrance because of those men who died fighting in the trenches in the poppy fields of Flanders in the UK, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and South Africa. And the poppies were manufactured in the Cummings studio in Derby. Thousands of volunteers, Team Poppy, helped to install them in the ground, a visual representation of life lost, a sea of blood-red flowers. And after this installation, the poppies were sold for charity. And the proceeds went to 6 military charities, including Help for Heroes and the Royal British Legion. Today, they are permanently displayed in the Imperial War Museum in London and Manchester. And here we go with the last one, which I think is a very nice contrast to the other one. That one was a huge amount of material you have to use. But in this one, it's only this kind of stencils, and lots of volunteers who made this D-Day memorial at the coast of France in a small village there. And it's marked the Peace Day of this September 21, 2013. The artists Jamie Wardley and Andy Moss, two artists from Bradford, set out hundreds of volunteers to commemorate 9,000 civilians, Allies and German forces lost on the D-Day, June 6, 1944. And they were supported by a local dealers there. They get the racks and the old stuff. But the result were immortalized through photography with the etched figures washed away by tide water later that day. So it just disappeared, and nothing was really disturbed there. It was a work about transience, humanity, and collective loss, and not nationalism. By including even the German soldiers, the artists show that all the dead are equal in death. The artwork made grief physical and present, but also temporary, a powerful reminder that memory requires action or it will wash away with the tide. And art has a unique ability to symbolize what cannot be said. Through light, stone, earth, textile, sound, artists can create works that carry the presence of the absence. Memorial art that made lost bodily and shared. This work speaks without explaining. So that's it. Thank you for listening.